Welcome back to the Saturday Scholars College Football Podcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. That is Zan. That is Gonzo. I am Shoob, and today we are here to do Week 10 picks. Let's go. Another great week of college football is in store. I'm rocking my Texas Rangers hat. Shout out to our friend RJ Walsh, who works for the Rangers, repping him here on the podcast for picks. I also have the Diamondbacks hat here. Yes, that's right. I have both teams' hats, retro Diamondbacks hat there. So I was wearing the D-backs hat for the recap, which, by the way, if you want to listen to our take on everything else, we cover a lot of topics about what's going on in college football in the recap videos. Highly recommend going watching those or listen to those if you have time. But for predictions, I got to rep the Rangers, so I'm can say I'm repping both sides here in the World Series. But gentlemen, are you ready to go here for Week 10 picks?
Let's get it.
Sir.
All right. Well, we talked a lot of Big 12 on the podcast. Well, let's start off with the Big 12. The noon Eastern kickoff, that early window. Number 25, Kansas State versus number 7, Texas. Texas is a 5.5-point favorite. Guys, we talked about how this game is sort of like a pseudo semifinal game for the Big 12 championship game, including Bedlam. What do you think is going to happen here? The winner of this game will be in very good position to get to the Big 12 championship game. Enough said. Stakes are high. What do we think is going to happen here?
K-State, Texas, great matchup. Like you said, I'm not going to bury it. For me, Malik Murphy had a good outing last week. Can he do it again? He very well might, but I'm an agent of chaos. I like Kansas State.
You know, Gonzo, I mean, I want Kansas State to win this game. I want them to. But historically, Kansas State struggles with Texas. I know that Kansas State's been a better team in recent years, but Texas is just one of those teams they just cannot historically come out and be dominant against. And for that reason, man, I think Texas will win this game, despite Malik Murphy being in there. But I do think it's going to be very close, and I think Kansas State will cover this game. Legitimately, I think this is going to be a very, very hard-fought game. And I'm hoping for Kansas State to win, man. I really don't want to see an OU Texas Big 12 championship game, and not gonna. I mean, I think we know where we're going to go with Bedlam, but regardless of that, I just want to see at least one of those teams not in it.
Yeah, this one all of a sudden has gotten very interesting because the Malik Murphy factor is huge in this game. And if Quinn Ewers was playing in this game, I think it'd be a lot different. In fact, I think you could add probably a few points to Texas' spread. I think Texas would be favored by probably a touchdown, maybe a little bit more if Quinn Ewers was the quarterback. So that's a huge factor in this game. So here's the dilemma. On one hand, you have Kansas State, who has been demolishing teams the last 2 weeks. A 41-3 win and a 41-0 win over Houston and Texas Tech, or TCU rather. So Kansas State looks like they finally found their groove. Texas, on the other hand, starting to look a little bit more vulnerable. Backup quarterback who honestly didn't really impress all that much against BYU, who's not super great of a team. Texas, what are they known for on their defense? What is their weakness? There's one chink in the armor. It's probably their secondary is a little bit vulnerable, but their run defense is pretty dang good. Kansas State's problem is that they love to run the ball. That rushing attack for Kansas State kind of goes against what Texas's strength is on defense, which I think could sort of be a problem for Kansas State if they're going to win this game. But I think they will win the game. I'm taking Kansas State, boys. I'm taking Kansas State. And my big reason for this is that I think you have a dynamic option between Will Howard and Avery Johnson at quarterback. I think they have something up their sleeve for Avery Johnson. I just know that Kleinman does, and I think that can be used effectively. And if you're Texas, you're going to really need Malik Murphy to have a solid game to win. I don't know if I put my faith in Malik Murphy to do that just yet. Like, I'm going to have to see Malik Murphy win this game because this is a Kansas State team that even though they don't recruit well in terms of a power ranking standpoint, Kansas State is actually one of those teams that has developed good enough to actually beat Texas. It is at Texas, granted, but I think Kansas State's going to win. I think they win a close one, and I think it's going to be a great game. I'm putting faith in the Wildcats. I think they have found their groove, and I think they will upset Texas, which is something that a few weeks ago looked like it was not on the table. So I think it's pretty cool that this has all of a sudden become a really high stakes game. All right. Texas A&M versus number 11 Ole Miss. Little SEC West action here. Ole Miss 7-1, and they are still in play for the SEC West. Granted, they still got to play UGA, so realistically, probably not in serious contention. But we'll see what happens there. Texas A&M comes in 5-3 record. Is this a slip-up opportunity for Ole Miss? They're only a 4.5-point favorite. So do you think this could be a game where the Aggies could sort of quietly get a little bit of a steal here and upset Ole Miss?
I think we're reaching that point of the season where Ole Miss starts to run out of momentum, drop a few games. We forget this great start, and they go to a whatever bowl, finish the year 9-3, 8-4. That being said, I'm trying to cash an under, so give me the Rebels to beat the Aggies, to put them to at worst 8-4, and I think this will be Ole Miss's last relevant win before the roller coaster finally starts going down. Rebs both ways.
So I think Ole Miss is in danger here of a look-ahead game because they play Georgia next week. And you know how Lane Kiffin is, how he goes after those big dogs. Lane Kiffin wants that more than anything. Lane Kiffin likes to be in the spotlight. Lane Kiffin likes to crack his jokes. Lane Kiffin likes to say this. Lane Kiffin likes to say that. He even said before the Alabama game, oh, I know who's calling the plays. It's not that guy. It's that guy. So I think they're very much in look-ahead territory here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say Ole Miss to win, A&M to cover. I think it's close. And I don't think A&M is quality enough. They're still a good team. I just don't think they're quality enough, despite the look ahead, to win it when it's at Ole Miss. I think that's the key component here that makes me say that Ole Miss can hang on here because, hey, those powder blues, baby, they talk.
Those powder blues do definitely talk. I am a sucker for those uniforms, but I'm also a sucker for teams that have very good rosters that are quietly in positions, I think, to pull off a minor upset here when everyone else is sort of has their eyes in other places. And I feel like that's what Texas A&M is going to do. Give me the Aggies to win this game outright. More so just a feeling. I think the spread, I would definitely take A&M plus 4.5. I think there's a little bit of an edge there in terms of betting, but screw it. I'm just going to send it. Give me A&M to win the game outright. I think this is just one of those quiet spots where you just have the SEC's West schedule. Like these teams all sort of beat up on each other to a degree. I think this is one of those games where Ole Miss gets kind of caught by their shoestrings and kind of gets yanked back to the pack a little bit in the SEC West. Happens all the time. I think this is one of those games. All right. Notre Dame versus Clemson. Now, if this was 2020, this would have been a phenomenal game. It was a phenomenal game. We got to see that game twice in 2020. Unfortunately, Trevor Lawrence is no longer the quarterback for Clemson. And yeah, they're not even ranked. They have 4 losses. But they're at home in Death Valley, and they're a 3-point underdog to number 12, Notre Dame. Notre Dame has very much played their fair share of good opponents so far this year. And while Clemson has 4 losses, the record does not look good. They still will be treated as a quality power-rated team for sure. So who do you think is going to win this one?
I want to believe that Clemson will still fight no matter how many losses they have. That's just what Dabo's instilled in them. And I know Will Shipley's status is up in the air. But despite all that, I can still say that Notre Dame's going to win the game by a touchdown at least. Irish both ways.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, Clemson, they're not used to being in this situation where your chances of making the ACC title game are slim to none at this junction of the season. Your chances of making the playoff are none. the only thing you really had to play for is a bowl game. And you didn't, the players, the 4 and 5 star players who went to Clemson, they didn't go to Clemson to play in the Beef Brady Bowl. They went to Clemson to play in a conference championship game and to play in a playoff. I think there's going to be some quit alert here. I think there is. And I legitimately think Clemson's going to be 4 and 5 after this game. Irish both ways.
So going into today, when I first put this game up here on the docket for us to pick, I was thinking this seems like a pretty good buy low point on Clemson. And the spread, I think, also did a little bit of talking. It's only a 3-point line, which might be a little surprising, but to me, it wasn't super surprising. I thought this would be a good opportunity. Clemson's at home, back against the wall, wounded animal mode, sort of yada, yada. But then the more I thought about it and the more I looked at my Shoob numbers, my Shoobalytics, and there's value on this Notre Dame spread. So if I find value on Notre Dame as a 3-point favorite, thus that means they are going to win the game outright. That's what I have them doing. And I also think it is beneficial that Notre Dame has sort of had a little bit of a soft spot in the schedule since they went through that gauntlet that they did earlier in the year. They got to absolutely throttle a Pitt team 58-7 last week, which was insane. And Pitt's not having a good year, but you know what? I think that Notre Dame can pull this one off and win by a touchdown. I like that, just as Gonzo said. So Irish across the board here. We do not have faith in Clemson. All right. How about some SEC East action? Now, this one, who would have thought that at this point in the season, the Missouri Tigers would be sitting here with just one conference loss and would have a chance to theoretically beat Georgia head-to-head and be in the driver's seat to go to Atlanta and win the SEC East. Now, that is all mathematically possible for Missouri. If they beat Georgia, they are the favorite to win the SEC East by virtue of head-to-head. But the question is, can they actually beat Georgia? It is at Georgia. It is at Sanford Stadium, and Georgia is a 16.5-point favorite. What do we got here?
I think my record in past Georgia selections has shown that you just don't know what you're going to get. I mean, I thought, my Gators would keep it close and Georgia blows the doors off them. I pick Georgia to smoke Auburn. Auburn's with them till the 4th. For the game at hand, I'll throw a little darts. Georgia's going to win. I have no doubt in that. And I will take Missouri to keep it close, which means Georgia will win the game by at least 24 points. But seriously, I think Mizzou has the weapons to at least keep this game competitive. I mean, Georgia, you shut down Luther Burden, then full blown, you deserve your number 1 ranking. But I think he is going to be a headache, and maybe Cook and Eli Drinkwitz can scheme up enough. And Mevis, you need Mevis to make some field goals like last year.
Kicker.
Hopefully that can all come together and you can at least lose the game by like 13.
Yeah, if Mevis has his quarter pounders before the game starts, I think they got a good shot to make those kicks. But without his power bars or his power burgers, and they may not. But we'll see, man. We'll see. I'm with you. UGA is going to win this. They're at home. They're clearly a man amongst boys in the SEC East. But I stand with what I said. I think Missouri is the best team overall, like from a balance perspective on both sides of the ball. Hold on there, Shoob. Shoob.
Sorry for jumping the gun here. I'm ready to fill in that Missouri spread line.
Yeah, right, I didn't say Missouri. Hold on, you got to let me finish my spiel here. My apologies. What if I'm not going with Missouri? Oh my goodness, rude. But anyway, yeah. So good defense, good offensive weapons, good running back, Cody Schrader. Look, man, this team, I think, is going to be Georgia's toughest test on the schedule. And I know Georgia's about to go through the gauntlet and play Ole Miss next week. I know Georgia is going to have to, go play 3 ranked teams in a row, including Missouri. But, man, I'm going with Mizzou to cover these points.
That's, you know what, man? I almost pressed the backspace button 3 times, and that's 3 like button presses that I'll never get back in my life. all because of that. Well,
I would not be shocked if Georgia just absolutely goes try hard mode though, because it seems like in certain games like this, they're like, oh, okay, like we have to actually try. So like we'll just kill everyone.
they kind of did that to my Gators last week, and I think because of what you did, I'm just gonna spite you here. Well, no, I'm kidding. I was gonna take Georgia to cover the spread. Anyhow, but now you've solidified that. I'm taking Georgia to cover the spread, and you know what? One of us is gonna finally nail the Georgia
That's
spread in
right.
these games because I don't
Seriously
think a
though.
single one of us has picked the Georgia spread so far this year correctly. Well, actually,
Wait,
Zan, you got him last
Zan
week against
did.
Florida,
Yes.
but me and Gonzo, I think have been like we're like 0-5 and picking Georgia's
Brutal.
spread this year. So
I mean,
one of
Georgia
us two is going to be 0-6.
Georgia usually doesn't cover the spread. They're not a very good spread team this year. So
I think that has changed. Yeah, I think Georgia's finally
I
coming
think
into
Georgia's still below
their.
500 versus the spread. But yeah,
Oh yeah, they are, but I think they're starting to finally shape in the form here as to what we expected. Carson Beck is playing phenomenal. Give me Georgia. I like them by 3 touchdowns here against Missouri at home. I think that they stomp on the throat a little bit. All right. Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State. The number 10 ranked Sooners are a 6-point favorite going into Stillwater to face the Cowboys in Bedlam. And boys, this is a huge game, not only for the Big 12 championship race, like we said with Texas versus Kansas State. It's sort of like it feels like a de facto Big 12 championship semifinal game. And on
same
top of
way.
that,
Yeah,
this is the final rendition of the Bedlam series indefinitely for the near future. It's going to go after this year when Oklahoma leaves for the SEC. So there's a lot at stake in this game. Now, this one is, of course, close to me and Zan's hearts because we got Zan here, who's an Oklahoma State alum. I grew up an Oklahoma State fan. My dad's an alum. A lot of my family's alum. My dad's going to the game. Uncle Boomer, my Uncle Steve, he's going to the game too. They're going in the whatchamacallit, the suites.
nice. I was
So
trying to go, but the tickets are like $500, so
Of course.
that's not happening.
and I got other family going up there as well. So this one hits close to home. Gonzo, what do we got here?
Man, history doesn't bode well for the Pokes, and I'm not trying to put salt in the wounds. I'm just stating a fact of the
That's
matter.
factual. Yeah.
On our recap pod, I was talking up Ollie Gordon and his path to a Heisman would be a phenomenal performance in a win over the Sooners. So this pains me. I do think OU wins the last rendition just because of history. I think they get off the mat, but I will hedge. And I think given that it isn't Stillwater, I do see the Pokes fighting very hard. And honestly, I kind of hope I'm wrong and that Oklahoma State just go ahead and wins it. But I just do not have the confidence to pick the Pokes both ways.
I hope Oklahoma State wins it, but I mean, historically, this game will tell you they're not going to win it. Um, Last year, let's do last year when the game was over in the first quarter. Enough said. That's how Bedlam goes. And so, despite Ollie Gordon being amazing, I have a lot of concern. So, me as an Oklahoma State fan, the biggest issue has been our secondary getting gashed for huge plays. Every week, they give up a massive play, at least one. What's OU's strength? It's their passing attack. They're not really great against the run, which is Oklahoma State's specialty. They're kind of a really good run defensive team. But man, I think OU is going to throw all over them. And I don't think OSU's offense is prolific enough to keep up with OU unless they're able to force some turnovers. And if OU keeps throwing it on you and scores really fast, you're going to take away Ollie Gordon if OU gets a big lead because you're going to have to start throwing. And then if you take away Ollie Gordon, you take away OSU's offense. And plus, I think OU is going to stack the box against OSU and force them to beat them through the air, which I don't know if we can do it. OU both ways. This is classic letdown, man. And every time Gundy comes in, even when Gundy has the better teams, Gundy coaches scared in Bedlam. He always coaches scared in Bedlam. He won't go for it in certain situations. He'll punt from the opponent's 35-yard line. I mean, Gundy is the least aggressive coach of all time, the most conservative coach of all time. Come Bedlam, I don't think it changes. I think OU definitely wins this game, and I think OU covers too, and ends my dreams. But I would love very much for Oklahoma State to win the last one, because then OU, we could just hold that over them for 20 years or however long. So, but I think it's going to be a sooner day, but I'm really hoping to be wrong.
Well, to quote my uncle Steve, who is a huge OU fan, he said that he would be, quote, very annoyed if Oklahoma State won the last rendition of Bedlam for the exact
All OU
reasons that you
fans
just
would be.
said.
That's why it would be so amazing if we won it. And then
Listen,
plus, if we won it, we'd basically be almost eliminating them from Big 12 contention. Almost.
you could kill two birds with one stone here if you're Oklahoma State, if you are able to win this game. And yeah, I agree. That would definitely offset a good amount of heartbreak and just numbing pain in the Bedlam series that Oklahoma State fans have had to endure, especially over the last 10 to 15 years, if they can win the last one and just be able to hold that over OU's head for a while
If
now.
Ollie Gordon wants to win the Heisman, he has to have a big game here.
I agree. So if you're an Oklahoma State fan, for all the reasons you mentioned about Mike Gundy historically coaching this game scared, as we like to say, with his tail tucked between his legs every time he sees the OU helmet, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, all you can ask for is if you see this team come out and play two words here: confidence and aggression. If I see Oklahoma State come out with confidence and plays with aggression, I legitimately think they can win this game. I think OU does still have a matchup advantage for, like what you said, Zan. I think Alan Bowman for Oklahoma State, he's the X factor for me. You know Oklahoma's going to throw the ball. They're going to throw the ball more than they did last week against Kansas, I'll tell you that. And if they do that, they're going to have a pretty good chance to win this game. Let's be real here, because they will be able to throw the ball in Oklahoma
Our
State
secondary is bad, very young,
Yeah,
and they're just making mistakes left and right.
I think that will happen. If you're Oklahoma State, your best case scenario is you are able to run the ball and, of course, have Ollie Gordon just dictate the pace and keep OU off the field and hopefully get a few turnovers. And you're going to need Alan Bowman to really hit some passes. Yeah, you're going to need Alan Bowman to hit some passes.
Shoob, I don't mean to keep interrupting you. It's just this freaking game. But like, even when OSU's like in the thick of it when they shouldn't be, something always happens. Some kind of fluke incident or some kind of crazy penalty always happens that goes the Sooners' way and like tilts all the momentum their way or tilts the game in their favor. Like always, without fail, always happens. So we'll see, man. This is why I'm just so jaded by this, man. We got our win in 21 or one win in 10 years or whatever. Oh, we had it in 14 also, but you know, we get one every 7 or 8 years by the math. So I guess we're there.
Well, I'll say this. I've not done this before on this podcast, but for the first time in Saturday Scholars podcast history, I am going to not pick who I think is going to win. I think Oklahoma is going to win this game, but I'm going to pick Oklahoma State because screw it. I'm being a homer. This is the last Bedlam.
You just assured Oklahoma State loses.
It is literally the last Bedlam game for a long time. It's going to be the last Bedlam. Like, screw it, man. I just want to see the Oklahoma State logo on the screen. Like, I'm completely transparency. I'm going homer mode.
Look at your record, Shoob. You just cursed my team. You've been cursed all year, man. You just cursed my team.
For once on this podcast, everybody who listens to us who are diehard fans, you know that we're anything but homers on this podcast. We always tell things like it is, but for once I'm gonna go homer mode. Like, I just want to see the Oklahoma State logo, man. I want to see them win so badly in this game. But I do think
I do too, man. But I'm fully ready to like get my heart ripped out. So
I think Oklahoma will win, but screw it. Throw the Oklahoma State logo on the board. I just want to see it on there. So there we go. This is the first and probably the only time you're going to see me do this on this podcast. But it is literally the last rendition of a game that will not happen in the future. So it is like these are extremely special circumstances. All right. Kansas versus Iowa State, more Big 12 here. Now, this game quietly, a little bit of field position involved here for two teams that I think have outside chances to win the Big 12. We talked a little bit about that earlier on the podcast. Kansas is ranked number 22. They have 2 conference losses. They're going to Ames to face Iowa State, who is unranked but only has 1 conference loss. So Iowa State is in the thick of it. They are tied for first place right now somehow. We don't know how, but they are. And Iowa State's a 1-point favorite in this game.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is a little crazy. Who do you think's going to win here? We talked about this game on win totals. We said Kansas versus Iowa State was a huge win total swing game, and it appears that is also the case here, somewhat.
It is.
So clearly the books think this is a letdown spot for the Jayhawks coming off that huge emotional win versus Oklahoma. I think the wrong team is favored. I think Kansas can cash that over 6 wins for me. Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, they take care of business versus the Clones.
You know, I said it in an earlier segment on this podcast, no disrespect to Iowa State, but of the teams that are tied for first right now, I don't think Iowa State's going to be the one in the conversation at the end of the day. I'm in agreement with Gonzo. I think the wrong team is favored. Rock Chalk, Jayhawk.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical of this one as well, as you guys just said, and I am going to pick KU to win this game. I think they are slightly the better team. It is in Ames, but yeah, I think Kansas should be favored, but I will say this. If Iowa State does win this game and you have the dream scenario of Oklahoma and Texas both losing, all of a sudden we will have Iowa State sitting there at being 5-1 in conference play, a game ahead of OU and Texas.
With a tiebreaker over Oklahoma State.
They have a tiebreaker over Oklahoma State, who would have won. Like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden we'd be looking at that saying, like, if that happens, very unlikely, but if it happens, Iowa State would be in the driver's seat to go to the Big 12 championship game.
What if they did that and then because of that tiebreaker got in over OSU? Iowa State would be the ultimate bane to OSU's existence.
Oh my God, that would be nuts. But yeah, I think kind of like how I picked Texas A&M to beat Ole Miss, and I'm sort of yanking Ole Miss back to the pack here. I think this is a yank back to the pack game for Iowa State. So rock chalk across the board. All right. How about some Pac-12 action? Number 5 Washington is a 3-point favorite versus number 24 USC. Now, listen, despite all the negative media attention and all the bad things you can say about USC right now, they still are 5-1 in Pac-12 play, just underneath Washington. So if USC does win this game, like, they are still in pretty good shape to potentially play for a Pac-12 championship game. The question is this team fully going to be 100% of itself, of what it should be in this game? Can they get off the mat for it? Because, man, that Cal game was something else, but they won. What do you think is going to happen here, boys? I think it goes without saying that there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. I think the total has got to be in the 70s, if I'm going to guess off the top of my head.
Over.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes. For sure the over will hit. And I don't want to say for sure, even though I'm very confident. I'm very confident that the Huskies will win this game. I think they've got a quarterback, of course, in Penix, go toe-to-toe with Caleb Williams. Obviously, they got the better defense. I mean, for goodness sakes, Iowa State might have a better defense than USC. But all kidding aside, I think the Huskies keep their lead and control in the Pac-12 and win this game.
I mean, this is going to be a battle of no defense. This is going to be a battle of whose defense is the most incompetent. And I think that's USC. And USC doesn't have that home field advantage. I know they're at home, but they don't have a true home field advantage. As much as I love Caleb Williams, I think Washington's more balanced. Despite Washington's struggles, I think Washington walks out with the win on this one, and USC goes in full quit alert after this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this would be the ultimate final knockout blow for USC of any championship aspirations if they do lose this game. But guys, I feel like we're all picking Washington here. I'm just going to get out of the way. I'm going to pick Washington. I'm going to pick Washington to cover the spread. I think there's value here with Washington on the spread, just with 3 points. What if USC does win this game, though? I think everybody's going to pick Washington. But what if USC does win this game?
Then they'd have a tiebreaker on Washington.
Yeah, like, are we ready for them to win this game? Because I feel like in our minds right now, we're thinking like, oh yeah, USC, they're done. Like,
Caleb Williams is nuts. Like, that's the only reason USC isn't horrible for fighting for bowl eligibility. It's because of Caleb Williams. Without Caleb Williams, this is a terrible team.
But Washington has also played like a pretty bad team the last couple of weeks. So
but then
we're
again,
just kind of expecting
USC,
them to get it together.
USC we're expecting them to get together, but USC's defense might be like one of the worst in the whole league. So, I mean, I think Washington, if they can get back to anything, it's this game. And I also suspect maybe last week, maybe their struggle last week, maybe they're looking ahead to USC. Maybe, I don't know, can't say for sure. But I
Yeah,
think Washington is going to get it together this week.
I would agree. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I don't know if we're mentally ready for USC to possibly win this game. I'm just saying. I don't know if I'm in the right headspace for USC to win. It would make my brain churn. Just put it that way. All right. The big game of the week. The SEC West Division is on the line. Number 13
This is the
LSU.
SEC West Championship game.
Exactly. Versus number 8 Alabama. Gonzo, as our resident LSU fan, I know you have some thoughts and opinions on this game. We got a lot of homerism going on this week on this podcast, a lot at stake for all of our respective teams. Bama is a 4-point favorite at home, which is a little interesting to me. So Vegas tells you that if this game was being played in Death Valley, LSU might just be favored by like a point. Very interesting to me. What do we think here? This game is in Tuscaloosa, of course. Both teams have had a bye week to prepare for this. How's it going to go down?
So before I render my pick, I'll say the LSU secondary terrifies me. Um, you could be putting all freshmen out there because Deuce Chestnut, Denver Harris are both in the doghouse. Zy Alexander gets hurt returning an interception against Army in the game where LSU was up 30 points. And yeah, that's definitely going to be. And Makai Wingo might not play on the defensive line as well. Just all tidbits I thought you guys should know before making an informed pick. That being said, Jane Daniels in this offense, I mean, you need 30 to win, might need 40. And if you're going to give me Jaden Daniels versus Jalen Milroe, we knew this back in August. Of course, I'm picking LSU. This is the most, and I've talked to my buddy who's been a lifelong LSU fan, and this is probably the most confident. I might say this last week. This is the most confident the fan base has been heading into Tuscaloosa since the Joe Burrow team. So, go Tigers.
Confidence. Hubris? Is there going to be some humbling here for the LSU fans? Because here's the thing, man. Like we keep fading Alabama and we keep saying Milroe. We keep saying the quarterback play. We keep saying this, but Alabama just turns around and shoves a sock down our throat every time that we sit there and question them. They haven't had the dominant running backs that they've had in the past. They don't really have elite wide receivers like we're accustomed to, at least for Alabama standards. The offensive advantage is certainly by way of LSU. But man, like it's really a battle of a good offense versus a great defense, and a battle of an average offense versus a middle to bad defense. So with home field advantage here, look, I can see this going either ways. I would never bet money on this one. No confidence in it whatsoever. But I'm going to go Bama both ways. I think Bama gets it done at home. I did say last week, like I can see it going either way, but if I had to pick now, I'd pick Alabama. And because of that, I'm going to stick to my guns on that, and I'm going to go with Alabama.
So I'm very much looking forward to this game. This game always seems to deliver, especially when both teams are good and there's a lot at stake, which there is this year. One of the best rivalries in all of sports, in my opinion. Strength on strength, the LSU offense versus the Alabama defense. That's going to be like the number one most efficient offense in the country versus a top 3 defense. That is going to be phenomenal to watch. I can't wait to see Jaden Daniels go up against the Alabama defense and the adjustments that Alabama makes in the second half, because we all know that in the second half, Bama has been shutting teams down. And I'm interested to see how that goes, because not to bring up bad memories, Gonzo, but remember what happened against Florida State, how that second half went after the first half. If you're an LSU fan, your nightmare scenario is something similar to what happened in that Florida State game. But there is hope. They're only a 4-point underdog in Tuscaloosa, which I think is very telling. I think that LSU quietly has been doing very well since those 2 losses. The difference for me, though, man, the X factor in this game is the aforementioned Jalen Milroe. If Milroe is on his game, he is going to eat against this LSU secondary, and that is going to be enough to win this game despite facing off against the number one offense in the country. And the
Will
question
he be
is,
mid-row or mid-row? That's the question.
see, I've heard mid-row, I've heard Jaglin. Someone called him Jaglin mid-row, which that was a random buried down in the Twitter comments, like type of comment there, but I thought it was pretty funny. So people keep calling him Jaglin mid-row. Well, I don't think he's Jaglin mid-row. I think he's above average Milrow. I don't know. I can't even pun that. Jalen Milrow's been getting better as the season has gone on. And like Zan said, we always fade Alabama and they shove a sock down our throat. Well, if LSU is going to shove a sock down my throat this week, then so be it, because I'm fading LSU. I'm sorry, Gonzo. Give me Bama both ways. Jalen Milrow is the X factor. If he's on his game, I think Alabama wins this game. But it's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to it. All right. Miami versus NC State. Kind of had to throw this one in there. Shout out NC State, by the way, got a big win versus Clemson in the Textile Bowl. Though, Clemson.
Didn't think they could do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the Clemson win is as appealing now as it once was a few weeks earlier in the season. But
I think they take that any way they can get. Like that's humongous for NC State to beat Clemson in the Textile Bowl.
Right. This is like the down year for NC State, and this is the year they beat Clemson, which is kind of funny. But anyways, they're coming off a huge win. Now they're at home against Miami. Miami is a 4-point favorite. Miami has been we all know what's going on with them. They've been like a massive roller coaster this year. What do you think's going to happen? They're only a 4-point favorite going into Raleigh.
So, looking at this, I was trying to see the angle of okay, Miami wins, NC State keeps it close. Is that possible? But I've kind of gone holistic and look at how Miami's been playing, and I've just not been impressed. Like I said on the recap, you go into overtime against Virginia, you lose to Georgia Tech in the most embarrassing fashion that I think I've ever seen. You come back and beat Clemson in overtime. That's a good win, but very well should have lost that game. And then, lost to a North Carolina team that is just becoming frauds down the stretch. So all that to say, I'm going to ride some Wolfpack momentum and get behind Robert and I and the gang. And of course, Dave Doran. And I'm going to take the Wolfpack to just win this thing straight up. Cause why not, go Wolfpack. And I think they stub Miami's toe.
No, like you make a good point that Miami has been playing down a little bit. But the thing is, I'm just not like, look, I know NC State beat Clemson, and look, even though Clemson's down, that's still a good win. You still have to be somewhat of a quality team to beat Clemson. And I'm not as high on the market on NC State, but I just don't know what to expect with Miami. I truly don't. I'm going to go here with who I think has the better quarterback, and that's Tyler Van Dyke. Whenever I don't know in a certain situation, I'm going to go with the quarterback. I'm going with Miami. And it's a -4, but you know what? I'm going to go Miami both ways.
Zan, you went through the exact same dilemma in your head as I went through when I looked at this pick. My Shoob numbers actually tell me that I should take Miami to win, but then I should take NC State to cover and hedge a little bit, but I'm not going to do that. I did a lot of hedge trimming the last 2 weeks, and look how that's turned out for me. But I'm with Zan here. Miami's I don't want to overcomplicate this. I think Miami is the better team. And despite what my numbers say, I'm going to lay the 4 with the Canes. Let me ask you this. If Miami just kneels the ball versus Georgia Tech, do you think this line is a little bit bigger?
Yes. And that was part of my thought process, because that could be a whole one less loss in their column.
They just simply kneel the ball. All of a sudden, Miami's like, we're talking ACC championship game and everything. And like, they'd be ranked. So yeah, give me the Canes. I'm going to lay the 4 there, but respect to NC State. Kevin Concepcion too, their receiver. He's a very good player.
Yeah, he's stud.
All right. UCLA versus Arizona. Let's end the day with some Pac-12 after dark, only fitting. Number 20, UCLA is heading into Tucson, where teams go to die. If you are a Pac-12 contender, your hopes and dreams go to die in Tucson. Oregon State found that out last week. Washington State found that out the week before. Is UCLA about to find out what it's like to go against Jed Fish? And by golly, I don't know if the sports books have learned their lessons yet, because they have UCLA as a 1.5 point favorite on the road. What do you guys think is going to happen here?
Bruins. I like their defense. I like Carson Steele. I don't like the quarterback situation. And Arizona scares me, and they very well can win this game. So even though I'm confident in UCLA, I'm not going to doubt one bit that Zona could do it. But I like the Bruins, and I think they could at least win the game by a field goal, survive, live to see another day in the crazy world that is the Pac-12.
Wow. All right. I'll speak for
Arizona's
myself,
reeling right now. Arizona's at home. UCLA, I think, has a lot of flaws. Arizona's hitting their stride at the right time. I think they're getting some confidence right now. Jed Fish has got this team believing in themselves, and I think Arizona's going to win this game. I would actually probably put a money line bet on this.
All right. So we got UCLA, and then we got U of A from Zan. So, I mean, listen, UCLA, ever since we put out that short, they've been, or Arizona rather, ever since we put out that short, they've been on a roll. Arizona, kind of similar to Miami, man. You just, at least Arizona's wounds weren't self-inflicted. Well, they kind of were. Jed Fish probably should have went for 2 against USC. But other than that, he's a phenomenal coach. But point is, like, we're like 2 really narrow margins in these close game losses from Arizona being like a 7-1 team that would be ranked inside the top 12. I'm going with Arizona. Give me U of A. I think the streak continues. And like I said at the beginning of this segment here, if you're a Pac-12 contender, your hopes and dreams go to die in Tucson, Arizona. And UCLA is about to find out. A little bit of difference opinion this week. You love to see it. All right, boys. Well, any last final comments, concerns before we wrap this pod up? Week 10 picks are now in the books.
There is so much on the line, particularly in the Big 12 this week. And I would say the Pac-12 too, Washington, USC. I mean, there's a LSU, Alabama. I mean, this is like a de facto, like this is like low-key a playoff week, legitimately, for a lot of these teams. So this is definitely a week that I'm going to be glued to my TV.
Absolutely.
Gut check Saturday.
It is gut check Saturday. Yeah, there weren't a lot of good games last week. I'll say that lightly. So I think we're in store for a quote unquote bounce back week from the college football gods, and I'm looking forward to it. So without further ado, thanks for you guys for listening. Thanks for watching. Leave comments. What do you guys think is going to happen? Leave your picks. Do you have any bets that you like this week? Let us know what you guys think. Of course, we got difference of opinion here. So let us know what you guys think is going to happen in these games. Let us know who you think is going to win these conferences too. Who do you think your playoff picks are? Let us know. Don't be afraid to comment below. All right, for Zan, Gonzo, and Shoob, this is the Saturday Scholars signing out. See y'all later, and enjoy your college football Saturday. It's going to be a big one. Playoff and conference championship hopes will be dying this week for some teams. So looking forward to it. All right, peace.